This up. Okay. Ali, it's all you.
All right, thank you, brother. Hi, everybody. Ali, Grateful Alcoholic. Is the mic okay? Sound is okay? Yeah? Okay, perfect. First of all, thank you, Phil, brother, for your gracious invitation and for doing what you've been doing with this meeting for the last 3 years. It was one of the beautiful, one of the many gifts of this pandemic era. Has been the fact that we get to be with each other on such a grander scale, I guess, you know what I mean? Like there's no geography is no longer an obstacle, right? The press of a button and then to meet people that you met on Zoom and build a relationship with in person, like happened a few weeks ago when I was in Tennessee. That was just wonderful. And people like my brother Kevin and many are here, John and Yuna and Carol, and there's too many to name, so sorry. I'll let us start naming everybody, but I'm just blessed to know you, to be with you, to have relationships with you, because that's the only thing that really matters in this life, you know? Everything else is a smoke show. Everything else is make-believe. The only thing that really matters in this life is health and relationships. Relationships with each other, relationships with friends and family, relationships with this divine power that I get to develop as a result of these steps and you beautiful people. A power that is taking me from the scrap heap of life, put me in this beautiful life today. A power that has taken a mess like me, turned into a message. Just like it has with you, no more special than anyone else, just like it has with you, you know what I mean? I'm present to it today, you know? I'm present to it today. Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. I want to thank the long timers, the old timers. I appreciate you. I was in and out for 7 years, really just having a real tough time and dying in this illness. And I want to thank you for the light that you guys continue to shine through, for keeping the light on for a retread like me, for a broken soul like me. Thank you for not shooting the wounded. Thank you for teaching me with your kindness, spoon feeding me. You know, I appreciate you. You've taught me how to walk this program. Ever so broken, ever so fumbling and stumbling, but I've tried. You know, I think I like to think that every day I'm a little bit better than I was yesterday. And that's probably the best thing that I could ever hope for in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. I was separated from alcohol January the 4th of 2012, and I have been living a life filled with a deep sense of meaning and purpose. It's a juicy life when it's about meaning and purpose, you know. And in September and I haven't left you guys. I've been with you guys, man. Clean house, trust God, help others in the middle of this thing for 11 years now. In September of 2016, I took a couple of painkillers that were not prescribed to me. They were prescribed to my wife for her surgery. So the next day I renewed my dry date. So my sobriety date is September 8th of 2016. And people that knew me were a little bit confused why that happened, because I was so deep in the program and sponsoring and praying and meditating and speaking and starting conferences and starting meetings. What happened? You must have been not spiritually fit, some people say. I don't know. Everyone has an opinion. I don't know. I think that's above my spiritual pay grade, but I do know why, though. I know why. So the reason that happened to me, and I renew my dry date, is because alcoholism is cunning, baffling, and powerful. It doesn't always come as a drink. In fact, when you're in the program for a little bit, it wears a mask and comes from the back door. You know, I know why. Because I'm only as sick as my secrets. And for about a year before that event, I kept secrets from you. I kept from you that I'm broken, I'm afraid, and I'm depressed sometimes. I used to be. I kept from you that I don't feel enough sometimes, sponsoring people, having a profound alteration in my reaction to life, having incredible spiritual experiences, yet once in a while in a fetal position. I hid that from you because I thought there was an image to uphold in Alcoholics Anonymous. I thought it's about number of speaking engagements and number of sponsees and what you think about me, what I sound like and what I look like. Cunning, baffling, and powerful, right? See, I'm sick as my secret. I'm sick as my secrets, and I don't need to. But I realized that I don't need to worry about what you think about me, because alcoholism knows my secrets. That's what I have to worry about, you know. And there's one defense I have against it. The best way I know how to invite God into the equation is to disrobe in front of you and shine the light on the brokenness, put it on the table so it can lose its power, you know? And God did for me in that date, September 8th of 2016, just like he did with me on January the 4th of 2012, just like he's done with me many times throughout my life and recovery. He picked me up when I've been humbled and given up and just surrendered with the brokenness. Picked me up as just breathed life into me, breathe his life, loving energy into me, so it can just come out of me and everyone else can feed off of it. And it's done that with you. It's done that with you. I believe that's why we're more brothers and sisters in our defects than our virtues. I think that's how we become useful to each other. I believe that's why God carries his water in broken pots. No one's perfect. No one's supposed to be perfect in this program, you know? Broken. That's how I landed here, broken, suicidal, unemployable and unemployed. Nobody wanted to be with me, ugly on the outside and inside, and couldn't put 2 days together, sober at the end of my drinking. And the only way I guess it makes sense to me is that despite all odds, despite all expert opinion to the contrary, what at first seemed like a flimsy reed, the powerful and loving hand of this God just grabbed me and caressed me, brought me to you guys, introduced me to you guys. I'm sober because of a loving God, a God that I didn't really believe in, only prayed when my butt was on fire kind of thing, Born in a country that religious government took over. I'm a Canadian, Iranian, I guess, Iranian, Canadian, whatever you call it. I've been in Canada for 36 years, moved from Iran at the age of 10. I was born in a country where religious government took over and they start to do all kinds of incomprehensible, demoralizing things to the people in the name of God. Some of my extended family members were hung and tortured in prison in the name of God. So that's partly the God idea that I brought for you guys to deal with here, And the beautiful old timers, they wouldn't miss a beat. They wouldn't argue with me. They have no access to grind, right? You guys would just let me say whatever I needed to say and just say, you come on and have a seat. Take it easy. Grab this cup of coffee. Why don't you come up with your own conception of God? So if the word God bothers you tonight, I'm going to ask you humbly to maybe come up with your own conception of God. Maybe open up your heart. Maybe come up with your own conception for today, whether it's a soul of a loved one that's passed on, that's near and dear to your heart, or the collective consciousness of this beautiful group is a power greater than I could ever wish to be. Come up with your own conception of God. Born in Iran in 1976, born into a family that lived at extremes. One extreme was happiness and joy, extended family members, and a great child, And the other extreme was fear and terror and hitting and bleeding and violence and my father's addiction. It was on the other extreme. I was always afraid as a kid. I don't know which father I'm going to wake up to. I always felt like there's somewhere to get to. I always felt like I wasn't enough. I don't know. I used things like attention from kids in the neighborhood, love of parents, accolades in school when I got older, money, job, car, relationships. I use your acknowledgement. I use all those things to fill this, what you later on told me. I didn't know what it was. It's a God-sized hole you've been trying to fill, Ali. It's just insatiable with external things. I tried for years to do that. It would fill this hole for a short period of time, and then I would be confused and empty and chasing the next thing. I didn't know. Ever since pre-drink, this is pre-drink. In 1986, Iran and Iraq were fighting for a few years at that time, but in 85, they started to bomb each other's capital cities. And the first set of bombings that Saddam Hussein dropped on Tehran, capital city of Iran, where we lived, dropped within a few kilometer radius of our house. And when a bomb drops a kilometer or two from your place, it's like an earthquake. The entire housing complex would shake and windows would break. My sister and I were too young and too naive, I guess, to understand the gravity of the situation. Like, we're probably going to die. My mom wasn't. My mom was extremely scared. She ended up in a mental hospital for a month. And my father ended up locking up the house. Nobody would trade in real estate at that time, during wartime. He gathered all the money that he could. We were upper middle class family. We were doing well financially. And within 3 months of deciding, I think 2 or 3 months of deciding, we landed in Canada. but for the grace of a loving God. And that hasn't been the case for many people leaving war zones. You know, they go to refugee camps in different countries. It's but for the grace of a loving God. We land in this beautiful country, and I like to say that you know, the leaving a war zone and being in a place where there's freedom of speech and freedom of opportunity and kind people, freedom of religion, that would make me okay. But apparently that the solution was on the outside, was not on the outside. See, what happened with me is that my father's addiction and the chaos followed us here, except now there's no extended family member to buffer anything. And then my spiritual malady, I guess, followed me here. It's not alcoholism yet, because I haven't had a drink yet, but maybe my spiritual malady followed me here. And the spiritual malady that resides in my soul and my head and my thoughts continue to tell me, cherry pick evidence in my life why I'm not enough, why I'm always going to be a loser. You look different than the kids on the street. You don't speak a word of English. You're a loser. They beat you up. You're never going to be enough. Your father hits you. You're never going to be enough. He's an addict. You're never going to be enough. This illness is so cunning and baffling that for years told me that the problem's on the outside. No wonder for years I tried to fix the outside, manage life. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. That's why I'm here, else I would still be out there. You know? And then I met some of you beautiful people who shared through your generosity, you would share your souls with me. And some of you would share about your Leave It to Beaver lives. For our younger friends, that was a really happy, perfect family way back in the 60s. I think I watched reruns of it when I came to Canada. And you told me that your family life was perfect, yet you're an alcoholic. You're here taking a seat next to me. You had me question my belief system that I'm an alcoholic because of the external, what happened to me. Okay. And I'm not saying, look, any child that goes through trauma in life is going to be wounded, and we need solutions for a therapist, whatever else, right? And I don't know a human being personally, I don't know that's not wounded to some degree, you know, but I'm just saying that didn't necessarily make me an alcoholic. What you shared with me is the pain that goes through the thread that seems to go through all of our stories somehow, no matter if it was a perfect upbringing or a chaotic upbringing, somehow you never felt enough. And alcohol treated that. Oh, I got you. It's an internal condition. Inside out is the solution I found out later on, you know? I'm an alcoholic because of the effect produced by alcohol. The effect produced by alcohol and me, the alcoholic, is so absolutely magnificent. It fills that God-sized hole to such a degree that I chase it to the gates of insanity and death for about 5 years after it stopped working for me. That means for the last 5 years of my drinking, I would drink to oblivion. My body would be drunk. I have no control over my motor senses, whatever you call it, but my mind's still racing and I still want to kill myself. It used to treat that. Alcohol abandoned me, but for 5 years, I still chased it. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. I started drinking at the age of 16, and my huge world of potential, everyone used to always say that I have potential. My huge world of potential ended up being very small and dark in grungy motel rooms in Toronto with bottles of vodka and all the ugly extracurricular activity that follows that kind of lifestyle. Just wanted to die every minute of the day and didn't know what to do with myself. Life was just heavy. Every part of this illness confuses me, terrifies me, baffles me. How I supposedly, well, not supposedly, I believe it because I've experienced of it. It makes sense. It explains have an allergy of the body. It explains many things for which I could not otherwise account this allergy, you know, in which a normal drinker or a hard drinker, I don't know, if apparently people drink and when they feel tipsy, they leave it alone. They drink. They may be going through a tough time in their lives. They drink, destroys, hurts their life, damages their lifetime, and then they stop and they're able to moderate. Right? With me, what happens is that when I take a drink, the drink takes a drink, the drink takes a drink, and the drink takes me, and I'm gone. And I cannot promise you that I'm going to stop when I want to stop or where I should stop. You know, and what that looked like. Many examples of that. I was to be in the wedding party of one of my best friends, and I started to take a couple of shots the night before at 10 p.m. just to take the edge off so I can go to sleep and wake up early in the morning. Ended up drinking till 6, 8 in the morning and missed my friend's wedding. What it looked like is that I moved back to my mom's house, my mother and father's condo, because I spent all my money. They always took me back and took care of me. You know, at the age of 25, I took a few shots and the drink was on me and I had to go. And my mom knew it because I had to go get some more. And the poor lady, she bear hugged one of my legs, and I pulled my foot out and kicked her in the shoulder and took her wallet and drank for a week. It explained that too. It explained that I'm not heartless. It explained that I'm not a loser, that I'm not stupid, that I'm not weak, like my dad used to say. I'm an alcoholic and I suffer from the allergy of the body. So powerful that strength is not enough, love is not enough, intellect is not enough. You know? And the part of this illness that baffles me the most, I guess, is this I have a brain that continuously takes me to that first drink. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. My brain has a virus in it. Left to my own devices, it will always tell me the drink is an option. And this illness, this disease took me to many suicide attempts. You know, and I hear some people sometimes say, you know, I drank myself, it was a slow form of suicide, and I respect that. I understand that. But I want to put out there that if that's your belief system, that you don't know about suicide. You don't know about that darkness that has you doing it. The slash wrist, bottles and bottles and bottles and bottles of sleeping pills. That's a different kind of darkness. That's a different kind of darkness. One time I had slashed my wrist. I put on some sad, how romantic. I put on some dramatics, some sad Persian music and down like 30 Tylenol 3s and 30 or 40 sleeping pills and just drank a half bottle of vodka and then just waiting there to die. My poor mom finds me. Man, how do you make amends for that, by the way? I have, and I've been trying to be a better person, but how do you really make amends for something like that? You know? She takes me to the hospital. They give me some charcoal drink to drink. They leave me in the emergency room. She's begging me not to drink again. I promise her for every fiber of my being that, Mom, I'm never going to do this to you again. I promise you, Mom. And I meant it. You looked up a lie detector testing me. I would pass it. I meant it. 3 days later, they let me out of the psych ward, wherever it was. And this brain with a virus in it. Hey, that was just a phase. You just didn't have the right girlfriend. You need love in your life. A drink would fix that. And I was off to the races again. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. It doesn't care. This disease doesn't care about how much money I have. In fact, you can't throw money at this thing. I know a lot of people that are wealthy in Alcoholics Anonymous and treatment centers all around the world dying. Doesn't care about my religious leaning. Doesn't care about my sexual orientation. Doesn't care about my intellect. In fact, my intellect's probably the worst thing going for me. Because I think I know, right? I think I know. Man. Crazy. Insane. Meanwhile, I'm dying in this bitter morass, as self-pity Bill Wilson calls it, spiritual malady. My skin hurts. Literally and figuratively, I can't breathe. Life is heavy for me. I'm always chasing something outside of the now. I always have to be somewhere. I have to prove to somebody that I'm somebody. But it's a tiring life, man. Confused by how you live your lives. Like, how is it that you guys get, like, people don't leave you in relationships and you get married and babies? How's that happen for you? Everyone always left me, you know, rightfully so. How is it that you guys keep your jobs and get promoted and, you know, houses and mortgages and cars? This disease got me fast and early. I had nothing. And I haven't had a chance to build nothing, build anything, you know? I was 12-stepped in 2006. I met you guys and I fell in love with you guys. I found my tribe, man. You drank like me. You were kind. You loved me. You kept on telling me to keep coming back. You thought like me. You felt like me. You know? I was so happy. Everyone's journey is different. My experience was I fell in love with you guys. And for a few months, 5, 6 months, I would be coming to a lot of meetings and setting up chairs and coffee pots and active in Alcoholics. happy, sober, you know? And then about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, I don't know, well, I do know, this brain with a virus in it woke up and said, hey, you're a loser. A drink would fix that. You don't really belong with these guys. And I went out. I was in and out for 7 years, in and out, dying. Confused, upset, depressed, pissed off at you. How come it is that I'm doing what I think you're telling me to do and I can't stay sober? I'm no longer confused today. See, because I wanted something for nothing. I wanted to just come visit you and by osmosis get what you have. I wanted to come talk to you, get inspired by how you live your lives and do nothing for it and just have what you have, right? It's like as if like my body needs nourishment and I'm starving and I go to a restaurant and I clean the chairs and shake hands with people and I talk to people that are eating delicious meals and ask them, how did that taste for you? How did you make that? Fantastic, and go home. Imagine, I'm not going to get filled up. Imagine, I go to a restaurant, I just read the menu over and over, and that's what I did, read the steps over and over, and go home, right? In order for me to get physical nourishment, I got to partake in this meal with you. In the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, the spiritual meal that we sit down and dine together with at these 12 steps, and I missed the boat on all of them. I would argue with you about them. I would pick and choose what I wanted to, you know? But see, that was necessary for someone like me because it humbled me. It crushed out of me any ideas I had, how I could do this by myself. It made me teachable. And that's a good thing for someone like me. It emptied the cup. I was filled with old, decades-old coffee. And what those 7 years did was just empty the cup, and I came to you open, an empty cup for you to fill me. You know, my last drunk wasn't as bad as the 50 before that. I was renting a room in a men's recovery home, 4 months sober, a lot of activity in Alcoholics Anonymous, like service at the group level, a lot of meetings, no steps, dibble-dabbling in the steps. I went out and one night, drank, and I snuck back into that room. I passed out and then came to incredible amount of physical pain. My joints were throbbing, my skin was sensitive and hurting, like you have the flu. My mind was racing, and the 4 horsemen, what are they? Bewilderment, despair, something, terror, something. They came for a visit. And they screamed loud like they always used to do. They told me that it's better that I just take my own life because I'm a burden on everybody. I'm never going to get better. And then they said a drink would fix that. Something happened to me very profound, extremely profound. One of my most profound spiritual experiences. I've had many in recovery, and I'm sure you have too. I've had many in which I am jumping for joy as a result of. This one, I wasn't jumping for joy. That's why it was so profound. This one happened, and I'm still in pain, but I knew it happened. Because this time my knees got bent and my mouth opened up and a prayer came out of me. God, whoever you are, whatever you are, can you please just help me not be like this anymore? Because I'm tired of this. I don't even know if you are. Just help me. Please help me. A prayer from a broken soul. God answers prayers from broken souls, I believe. Because it's the most humble prayers. Tears of sometimes are the most beautiful forms of prayers, I believe. The spiritual experience I had was that after that prayer, I haven't had a drink. The thought of a drink went away. I haven't attempted suicide since then. You know, without the steps, without anything. It was as if like I had my moment of how dark it is before the dawn, and then the dawn came, but the dawn was painful, yet it was beautiful because I knew there was hope. And this loving power just grabbed me and caressed me and brought me back to you guys, the sacred rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and put me in front of some awakened people, new teachers, new elders. This time I'm open to hear them. And this teacher, this sponsor, opened the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with me, and this native Indian lady, she took me through the pages of these book, this beautiful sacred book, line by line. We went through it. We just followed the black and the white. If it said to identify with something, I would identify if I could. If it said to take an action, I would have moved forward until that action was taken. The big book became alive to me. It became 3D to me. I've read that book many times. Why did that happen? I believe two reasons. One was that I was broken and humble and open. That's one. I had my step one experience. I conceded to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic, that I cannot do this by myself. That's one reason. The second reason is that you didn't dictate to me. You didn't teach to me. The sponsor poured her experience on the page of this book. That's what we do for each other. It's not an intellectual endeavor. It's not exercise. It's not unpacking and talking at all hours about what this word means and that word means. That's interesting. I'm not saying that's interesting, but it's shallow. It only becomes this 2-inch book becomes thousands of kilometers deep if one of you pours your experience on the page of this book. And that's what happened to me. We went through the inventory process, and I think for the first time in my life, ever, at that time, I was unplugged from the ego for a period of time. Just totally unplugged for a period of time. And I saw that everything that I'm complaining about, that I'm better than, less than, the government, my parents, you guys, everything that I'm complaining about, the fears, everything. One common denominator. You're looking at him. It was me. I woke up. I woke up to the fact that I've been driving my entire life in Toronto with a map of Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm the one with the GPS messed up. I'm the one going wrong ways. I thought it was you. I woke up. I woke up. I had a powerful 6 and 7 experience, step 6 and 7 experience, my first round of the steps. Very powerful, man. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. It always happens. My book tells me if I work for it. Always happens. You know, sometimes I used to read this book when I hadn't completely committed to this way of life. I used to read this book and cherry pick evidence to build a case against certain things. You know how I do. Like, for example, I would read that line where in Bill's story where he talks about having that white lightning experience in the hospital, right? And God's love, just the light came through him, and he just, what are the words? They're so beautifully poetic and descriptive. I forget them right now, right? And I used to look at that and say, well, that's not me. I have the education of variety. I'm a very slow learner. I don't believe that today. I believe we all have the very white lightning experience, and we all have the educational variety, because what happened was Bill Wilson, see, I wouldn't follow the entire picture. After that white lightning experience for a 1.5 to 2 years, he said himself that he was plagued with depression, couldn't find a job. What white lightning experience? Depression, couldn't find a job. What saved the day every single time, made him present to this beautiful life and beautiful God, when he got out himself, went to the hospital and talked to another alcoholic. I have had profound spiritual experiences, both of the white lightning variety and the educational variety mixed together, man. You know, and I think we all do in our own ways. We all do in our own ways. With every single amends I made, I got a piece of my soul back. I felt like I could stand up a little bit straight, confident. You know, but the confidence rooted in power, rooted in God, rooted in humility, rather than rooted in self-centeredness and what you think about me. Not a confidence rooted in dress up this monkey so you can acknowledge me. You know, different kind of confidence, a spiritual confidence. I would make amends, even the smallest, $5 a month, and a financial abundance would come into my life when I needed it. Or if I didn't have it, I wasn't afraid of it. I was afraid of not having it. I would make amends of people that I've harmed and love would come into my life. Blew my mind. That's what I wanted my entire life, except I went about it the wrong way. I was trying to live my life backwards, outside in. What you taught me is that, Ali, kid, this is inside out, inside out program, you know? I was blessed with the experience to start sponsoring very early on in sobriety. And I'm only sharing my experience. Please don't ever misconstrue my, if I'm passionate about something, I don't want it to be misunderstood that everyone has to do it a certain way. No, it's just my experience. You know, at 3.5 months of sobriety, I was at step 12. I was attempting to make the rest of my amends and attempting to pray and meditate. And my sponsor, I guess, she knew me for years in and out of the program. She said, you got to start sponsoring people, pass this message on. And I would be scared. What do I have to offer? Who wants someone with a few months of sobriety? She told me it's none of your business. To whom, how, when you pass this message on. This is a God deal, she said. She said, you pray and you make yourself available. Because if Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob Smith had any rule written in stone that we must have 1 year before sponsoring, we would all be dead. There'll be no way. It's not about a number of sponsees or if you're, it's about you making an attempt to pass these 12 steps on to someone else. That's how you stay sober, you know? So I stayed sober. The Spirit had me chair a meeting at a men's shelter at about 4 months or 3.5 months. I would read 3 pages from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and these men would share from the tragedies of their life, from the pain and just sadness of their lives. And I would sit there, glowing eyes and glowing skin and ear to ear, talking about the fact that I ain't drinking. As a result of these steps, I haven't had a drink in 4 months. That I haven't wanted to kill myself in 4 months. And I would go back saying the same thing every week, and these men trusted me, you know, not just the truth, but also of what I'm saying, but also the tangibility. I hope that's the word, the tangibility of my recovery, you know. Sometimes when you're new, I guess, you like 4, 5, 6 months or a year is more tangible than someone with 30 years. I don't know, you know, sometimes like that, right? So they would come up to me and ask me after the meeting, Ali, can you just please help us with these steps you're talking about? How did you stay sober? Can you show us? I said, sure, I can. I'll take you through the big book. So I would take them, open the big book, and I would read the big, and we would do exactly what was done for me. And I like to think I'm a better sponsor today. I have more life experience. Okay, but I did the best I could. And I have no idea if any of those gifts from God are sober today. But as I mentioned before, I'm sober. I'm sober. I can't get this twisted. I don't have the power to keep anybody sober. I don't have the power to make anybody drink, but I have recovered and been given the power to help others. And that power is not of me. I cannot take credit for it. It flows through me, and I have a duty to pass this on. That's how I stay sober. It's a duty. That's how I stay sober. So if you're new or young in sobriety, and perhaps you're step 12 and your sponsor is encouraging you to you know, pass it on, and just remember, it's not going to be you. You have tapped into a power, you know, and I pray that you are surrounded with members of Alcoholics Anonymous that are going to fan that fire rather than extinguish it with their opinions, that are going to fan that fire for you. You know, fan that fire. Look at what God did with Bill Wilson, 6 months sober. Look at this universe of beautiful Alcoholics Anonymous. 1 person, 6 months sober. 2 people. Look what happened, man. Right? I hope they fanned that fire for you. I was 2 or 3 years in, sponsoring a lot of men and transformed in a lot of areas of my life. But if you would have followed me with a candid camera, one of those candid cameras, you would have been shocked in some areas of my life. Because you would have said, that guy's drinking the way he's behaving. I wasn't, but the way I was behaving. I didn't know. But I found out later why it was. Because I would come to these rooms and lie to you that the relationship with God is the most important relationship in my life, but I was giving God very little time throughout the day. Very little time at 3 years in. I was still doing with the most important, those that are listening in audio, I just put quotation marks around important relationship in my life. I was still doing what I did when I first came in, which is a quick little prayer in the morning, quick little prayer in the shower, maybe. Quick little prayer at night, maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, this is broad and roomy. We enter how we enter. But here's the thing. What I have learned, what my elders have taught me, they demonstrated for me, is that this beautiful path, it gets narrower and narrower and narrower as I walk every humble 24-hour step forward in a couple of different ways. One of the ways relevant to what we're saying here is that I can no longer get away with not doing what the big book suggests for too long. I do not do it sometimes, but I can't get away with it for too long. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation. From that day to this, a prayer life, ebb and flow, making mistakes, trial and error, a prayer life, a meditative life has grown about me. I spend time with God. I worship this power in the morning. long periods of meditation, different modalities. Silence is where I go these days. Prayers and spiritual readings throughout the day. I'm always praying. I'm always praying throughout the day. At night, I do a little thing. Because without him, I'm nothing. Faith has to go through me 24 hours a day or I perish, man. And one of those times when I was earlier on and wasn't sponsoring people, wasn't praying, meditating much, I used to, again, cherry pick evidence from the big book to prove to you that my way is right, make cases for other ways. I used to say, well, the big book says it's only contemplation, thinking about the day, that you don't need to pray, you don't need to meditate, you don't need to sit in silence at all. Well, there's a line in step 11 where it says, be quick to see when religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. Make use of books they have to offer. Then I would read the history and I would hear that the early AAs, that's what they did. Anne Smith introduced meditation to the early drunks. They were vibrating. They would sit in Dr. Bob's house in silence. She would read the book of King James, I think, to them a little bit. Then they would sit in silence to hear the direction. Then they would pray and have conversations, sometimes 20 minutes to an hour and a half. It was started a long time ago, man. There's a universe of God available for me to build a relationship with. As a result of cultivating and deepening a relationship ever so, what's the word? Imperfectly, ever so imperfectly, right? As a result of developing a relationship with infinite love, infinite power, what I get to do today is opposite of what I used to do. I used to tell God how big the storms in my life are. Today, I get to tell the storms in my life how big my God is, man. As a result of cultivating and deepening a relationship with this power that means everything to me. Every relationship in my life comes out of this relationship. See to it that your relationship with him is right and great things come to pass. It didn't tell me see to it that your relationship with your wife is the number one thing. Or with my brother Kevin is the number one thing. It said, see to it that your relationship with him is right. Every relationship that I have comes out of this beautiful ocean of God. When it's working, when it's meaningful, when it's deep. You know? Tell the storms of my life how big my God is, man. I was broke, penniless, jobless, carless, homeless. All those things are here. We have it all. No, not wealthy, just enough, but just enough. Just enough. Just enough. That's good enough for me. You know? I tell the storms of my life how big my God is. Lonely, ugly on the outside and inside. No one ever wanted to be with me. Ashley and I are coming up to 10 years of marriage. 10 years of marriage we're coming up to. A loving marriage, you know? Soldier of God she is. Oh man, I love her. Beautiful one, the inside and outside. 14 years ago was my last suicide attempt. I didn't know what to do with this life. About 10 years ago, my wife and I sitting in the doctor's office, fertility clinic. The doctor has told us that even with it in vitro, you know, like my parts and her parts in a dish and then transfer. I'm sorry, that's in vitro, right? See, he said even with all because of what's going on with both your bodies and everything, even with all the medical help we're going to give you, you have a 3 to 5% chance of having a healthy baby. 10 years ago, they told us that. You know what happened? My beautiful wife held my hands, had tears in her eyes, looked at the doctor and said, "Doctor, you don't know about our God, do you?" Darius was born a year later. 3 to 5% chance. He's 8 years old, 8.5 years old. He's the best thing of my life, man. He's such a beautiful soul. I love him to death. He's the best thing in my life, man. Talk about God, talk about love, talk about manifestation of source, you know? About 3 years ago, my wife got an inspiration in her heart. I want to have another baby. And I said to her, all the reasons why not, and everything that's going against us. She's 3 months pregnant now, at the age of 51. We're going to have a little baby boy, another one. Can you believe that? Somebody like me, broken, suicidal, dark, never felt like I was enough, never felt that I was going to amount to anything. This is what God does. This is what this power does, man. Loving power. Happy most of the time. Have a job that I can support my family finally. You're just like, life is good, man. But I want to share something with you guys too. If you're new and if you're newly back, it's a beautiful life. And life is in session sometimes. Life gets tough sometimes too. Life throws curveballs sometimes. Cancers we didn't see coming. Depressions I didn't see coming. Joblessness, trying to raise support a family, didn't see that coming. My wife and I got separated for a while. We almost got divorced. Didn't see that one coming. See, this program is powerful. And as I said earlier, it's so much more than chasing happiness. It is deep because it fills my brokenness with purpose. It gives me purpose. Why? Because all those valleys in life, they bring me back to the table with God for a deeper level of experience, deeper level of surrender of all my ideas. All my ideas. That's the only thing that keeps me in bondage, my disagreement with reality and my ideas. And it seems to be with me, pain is a great motivator for spiritual growth. You know? Yeah. The steps had to become working part of my mind and my body. 10 minutes, I got it. Thank you, brother. The steps had to become a working part of my mind and my body, every fiber of my being. They're not just homework assignments. They've had to become a way of life with all the imperfections. They have to become like breathing. Because I don't suffer from a drinking problem. A drinking problem would suffice when I just put the drink down and walk away. I suffer from alcoholism. It is a soul sickness. It's a spiritual malady in which on my own power, I'm always feeling separate from you. On my own power, there's always something to prove to somebody or somewhere to get to. All the time. There's no rest in my head. You know? And that delusion that I'm separate from you, from God's other kids, leads me to the biggest delusion of all, that somehow I'm separate from this power, that somehow I'm separate from God. But that's not the case today. God is not out there from me anymore. Deep down inside every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. He's a fire inside of me. I've been on fire for the last 11 years. Not perfection. When I say fire, I mean like a deep yearning to get to know this God more. A deep yearning to just be closer to you, be a servant, you know what I mean? Just to be a better person. And I needed a current relationship with God, not yesterday's relationship. Another spiritual teacher that has passed on, Mark Houston, God bless his soul, man. He used to say all the time in his talks, he's like, I'm not alive today by the food I ate last month or the water I drank 2 weeks ago. I need to keep drinking and eating on a daily basis, right? And I relate to that because my soul is not nourished today. I'm not present to God's love because of the inventories I did many years ago when I first came in, or the prayer meditation I used to do, or the amends I used to make, or the newcomers I used to have. Today, I need a current relationship with power. God put some awakened spirits, some of them have passed on, spiritual giants through their CDs, speaker tapes, and some of them alive in person, that what they stumbled onto, I guess, what God showed them was, for them, a revisiting of the first 9 steps once a year seemed to produce some incredible results. So that's what I've been doing once a year, setting aside everything that I think I know and asking God to remove this knowledge of and my past experience, because it's become a noose around my neck. Remove it from me, God. Please make an empty cup. And I dive into the first 9 steps and I just become awakened on a different level. And then I dive into 10, 11, and 12 and it just becomes so juicy again. And I started to realize how asleep I was the year before, even though I didn't know. You know, it's been incredible, this way of just living these steps, you know. If you're newly back, I was meditating. I dry heat before talks. I don't know why, self-centered, whatever you want to call it. That's the way it works. I get nervous and I sit and meditate and I ask God to put the words on my heart and tell me what to do. Because I want to represent you, God. Would you please allow me to speak under your good direction, under your guidance, God? Would you please fill me with humility and kindness, God? Would you please make me present the fact that I'm not there to teach anybody anything, God? Because without you, I'm nothing, God. I just want to talk about you, God. That's what I do, something like that. And what he put on my heart is this poem to dedicate to the newcomer, to the new person. It's on apparently it was on Nelson Mandela's wall, and apparently it's attributed to Mother Teresa. If you're newly back, I'm gonna end this talk, end this one-way spiritual conversation with this Mother Teresa poem. God bless you. Oh my eyes. People are often unreasonable, irrational, self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're successful, you'll win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have. It will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it's between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. God bless you guys. Thank you.